Okay, hot take. What if I told you crime was cool and organized crime was even cooler? And the organized crime I'm talking about took place in Japan and has nothing to do with the Yakuza. Rather, the mob. Crazy idea, right? Really cool thing about that? This is more than just an idea. This is something that actually happened. This is the premise for one of the best shonen series out there. And this story, it starts off in ways you don't expect. Actually, it starts off as a mafia-themed Looney Tunes gag comedy series. But don't let its humble/goofy origins confuse you. The series I'm talking about today was something that was going strong during the prime Big 3 era. That means Bleach, Naruto, One Piece, and the series we're talking about today, Hitman Reborn. A series that starts off with a baby in a fedora shooting a middle schooler with a death bullet that makes their clothes explode off. And with no context, that sounds incredibly crazy. But this show locks in and evolves into a high-stake epic with emotionally grounded action about legacy, trauma, and refusing power you never wanted in the first place. Sounds insane, right? Well, that's because it is. So stick around, because we're going to unpack how this underrated gem went from gag manga to one of the most criminally underlooked shonen franchise of all time. And by the end of this video, I'm hoping you'll understand why a story about a kid named No Good Tsuna might be one of the most honest portrayals of leadership anime has ever given us. So I'm Remy, and I just want to know if anyone's checked on Hitman Reborn, and if not, let's. Akira Amino is what happens when an artist says, screw consistency, let's evolve mid-series, and then actually pull it off. Saying she locked in is an understatement for how much the manga evolved after a certain point. The early art in Hitman Reborn looked like it was drawn by someone who's a big fan of Rubber Hose style, which is cool in its own unique way, with the round faces, bigger than life reaction, and the noodle limbs definitely made Reborn stand out in its own way. Good or bad, I'll leave that up to you. But after chapter 64, the gags kinda stop. The manga shifts into a battle-dominated story, and after that shift, the art took a 180 in the best possible way. You know, in hindsight, it's kind of incredible how over time, the art sharpened with the tone of the series. Fights became dynamic, character designs got sicker, and you could feel the pressure in every panel when characters were on the edge. And just to clarify, Amino never just drew cool stuff. She designed her world, and the best example of this would probably be the power system. Flame types weren't just a traditional rock, paper, scissors magic system, where one beats the other because the colors are different or something like that. Red doesn't just beat green, and blue doesn't just beat red. The flames represented metaphor. Sky stands to unify. Storm flames are to destroy things, rain flames is to tranquility, sun flame is about activation, lightning flame is about hardening, cloud flames are about propagation, but let's be honest, this one was just doing whatever it wanted. This guy was an independent contractor that only showed up on days where he wasn't doing side quests. And finally, we have the mist flame, or the power of construction or illusion. Each character's flame reflected their psyche. We start with Tsuna, the reluctant leader, the sky, Gokudera, the ticking time bomb, the storm. Then we have Hibari, the lone wolf, the cloud, so on and so forth for the rest of the family. The power system wasn't just functional, it was insightful, it was deep, it was ever evolving, and it was something more than just your average power system. Not to mention though, the flame system wasn't something reserved for the main cast, but we'll get into the 7 dying wolf flames of the earth later. And it's that kind of layered thinking that separates Reborn from the other Jump titles at the time. It wasn't just about getting stronger, it was about becoming someone worth following. But then we hit the anime. The Hitman Reborn anime aired from 2006 to 2010, and for a lot of people, this was their first taste of the chaos that Reborn had to offer. So I guess they decided to play it safe first, but unfortunately, it might have been too safe. For reference, the first batch of episodes were straight up gag and filler stuff. Granted though, that is how it started off in the manga, but by this time it had already slightly shifted tones to a more battle-oriented series. So I personally think the series should have sped up the gag stuff to get to the more exciting stuff. But since it didn't, people were introduced to this version of Reborn with no real tension, just constant Tsuna fails and Reborn pulling weapons out of his hat, and it made it look like a Saturday morning cartoon, which probably killed a lot of the reach early on for a lot of people. But once the Varya arc hits, oh, it's a wrap. It's a wrap. You got me, you got people are invested in these weirdos now. The pacing tightens up, the fights get sorta epic, tension gets so thick you can see it in certain moments, and this continues all the way up to the future arc, where the anime ends abruptly. You get no inheritance arc, you don't even meet Simon and the rest of the Earth Flames, and of course, there's no Curse of the Rainbow arc, the last arc of the series. It's like reading One Piece and stopping at Water 7. And if you watched or read One Piece and stopped at Water 7, what are you doing? Stop watching this video, go back to One Piece or get some help because you deserve more. One Piece isn't even that hard, bro. Just lock in. It's only 1,000-something chapters. I promise you, it only gets better after chapter 1. Just lock back in. You can do it. I believe in you. It's not that hard, I promise, says a One Piece fan. Just come on, give it a shot. It's fine. Join us in the One Piece cult. It's fine. Because unlike Reborn, One Piece kept coming back and it's still going. So why did Reborn stop semi-abruptly in the middle of its run? Well, there's a couple prevailing theories / reasons for it. Obviously, we don't know the ins and out of it, but we can make assumptions based off information I can gather. I.e., I can Google stuff and hope it's right. So one of the first reasons was because the anime caught up to the manga, which is never a good thing, because that means we would have been swamped with so much filler content, you would have gotten sick of whatever they were putting out because it wasn't the source material. Also, the studio, Artland, who was animating the series, well, they went broke. The anime studio filed for bankruptcy in the late 2010s, which, if you can't imagine, puts a little bit of a stop when it comes to animating new episodes. And the biggest nail in the coffin will be the anime losing steam. Years of filler, bad pacing left people worn out and tired, to the point where Shonen Jump seemingly didn't want to keep investing into something that wasn't moving merch like the big three. So the anime got shelved even before the manga even finished. And fans, well, they were left with half a story practically. With all that, you can't imagine why the manga matters so much more, because that's where the real ending lives. Before we talk about the real ending, let's talk about the characters that are actually involved in the story, because they all spell disaster in different fonts. Just for the record, you know how most shonen protagonists are like, I want to be the very best like no one ever was? When it comes to Tsuna, he was the exact opposite. Tsuna starts the series like, please stop talking to me, I suck, I don't deserve to be here. And honestly, well, that never fully goes away, and that's what kind of makes him great. He's not the guy to run towards danger because he's brave, he's the guy to stand up despite being scared. Because someone has to, and no one else will. That's not a shonen fantasy, that's just growing up. Tsuna becomes one of the most grounded, painfully relatable protagonists in shonen history in my opinion. He's not aiming to be the boss. Honestly, he's dragged towards it, resisting at every step, only to realize that real strength isn't about power, it's about responsibility. But he's not alone. Thankfully, he's surrounded by the Vogula Familia. I'm pretty sure his best friends, also the world's greatest support group when your boss is kind of a crybaby. We gotta start with his right-hand man, Gokudera, the human embodiment of please let me blow up stuff. He's smart, deadly, loyal to a fault, but can be a bit much, and he has sister issues. Also, he's scared of her cooking, which granted, that stuff looks terrifying. And side note for me, I read the manga for Reborn first before I saw the anime, and I always thought he had red hair. He just acts like a red-headed character, but he has like grayish ash silver hair. It's like, huh. He always struck me as a fiery redhead type, not the gray hair type, but you know, that's whatever. Next we have my favorite, mostly because he has a katana, Yamamoto. My guy is like positivity personified. He's always smiling, super chill, but under the baseball bat and happy-go-lucky vibes is just a kid who's trying to avoid the pressures of living up to his father's legacy. Also, his bat is a katana, which is like so stupid, but so cool. And then we have Hibari, who was just a cop, like point blank. This man was just beating up anybody for standing too close to him and then putting handcuffs on everybody. Like, he was honestly a really cool character, and he used tonfas, which was like a super unique weapon for me at the time. Just him as a person, I would not want to be friends with. Just, I'd be scared he'd beat me up for doing something stupid. I don't know. Just, he's not my type of guy. Next, we have Lambo, a 5-year-old baby. And not like the other babies in Hitman Reborn, like an actual, he was just born 5 years ago kind of baby. And I get it, hold your horses, it's not that bad. I mean, it is that bad. Yeah, he's a baby, but also, this is manga, anime. We all know children are overpowered in every one of these series. Either a superpowered baby or a superpowered old man. There is only in between. And Lambo is definitely the superpowered baby. While he himself is not the most OP, he does have this bazooka that time travels for him, which is pretty cool, like mechanic-wise. We even get to see future versions of him throw hands with characters throughout the series, so that's pretty cool. But besides that, Lambo is kind of a lot, so be prepared for that if you want to get into this series. Then we have Sasagawa. He was cool. He was the older brother of the love interest, and as much as I wanted to like his character because I like boxing characters, he just never really left that big of an impression on me. He was a good older brother character, but besides from that, he never really had much for me to be invested in him as a character. Which is a shame, because once again, boxing is cool. Boxing with power systems, also cooler. Just him, very neutral on myself personally. If you like him, that's great. I like it if you love it. But for me, just, take it or leave him. That's it. And then we get to Makuro. Oh, this is the one right here. The Aizen meets Black Butler member of the family. Oh, he's so cool. He's so unnecessarily cool. He also might be a ghost, but he's so cool though. My guy starts off as a villain, right? Trying to murk everybody because if you know his backstory, you know he got a bit of a valid reason for his crash out and wanting to end everything. So you know what? I can't fully hate the guy. I don't like his methods, but I can't fully hate on bruh. He wants to burn down the system that forgot him and forgot the people like him. And there's also Chrome, who is his current host, sorta. Like, so he's kind of a ghost, but he also isn't. But either way, felt weird to not mention her, even though she isn't technically the most important part of the family. But like, she is, but she isn't. It's weird. It's not weird, but it is. Anyway, this family, this support group Tsuna has found, has a lot of things in common, specifically being that they're broken, they're trying, they're fighting battles inside their heads that sometimes hurt worse than the ones on the outside, they're messy, they're honest, and it's incredibly human, with a little caveat of anime, but human nonetheless. And that right there is the hook. The fights are flashy, yeah, but the real drama, as always in a good story, is internal. Each punch has a reason, each flame has weight behind it, and every character, they're not just archetypes, they're people figuring out life in real time just like you and me. And if that's not cool, maybe I just don't know what cool is. So, we talked about the good guys, the main family, and all that good stuff. So let's talk about the villains, because Reborn doesn't just do bad guys, it does trauma and mink coats and tailored suits and future gods. So that's pretty crazy. The enemies of this series aren't just evil for evil's sake most of the times. There's also the fact that half the villains are literally just minors or babies sometimes, but mostly, you know, kids. In a unique way, they're also kind of dark reflections of what Tsuna and any of his friends could be if they took the wrong path. Up first in that reflection is Xanxus, who is my favorite anti-hero. He's big, he's loud, he's violent, he has guns that shoot flames. It's not like a flamethrower, it's just like flame bullets. It's so cool, and he's just like beams out of his guns. Like, that's how you not like this guy. He's so cool. But he's also the kind of guy who throws hands first, sets fire to a mansion second, and then acts, maybe I'm the one with the problem, and then dismisses it because he's flawless. My guy is rage personified. He's a rejected heir who believes his power has earned him his birthright as the next head. And if I'm gonna be honest, he really should have just been the head. Tsuna, I love the guy, was not made for this kind of life. This man Xanxus is a dog, bro. He was made for this kind of grind. He was ready to get dirty with the best of them and come out cleaner than anybody else in the room. He was made to be the boss. And he just wasn't. But he also, like I said, he probably should have been. He was raised to lead the family. But when they found out he wasn't actually a direct descendant, they kind of threw him away like trash. And because of that, he becomes a king without a throne, desperate to prove the world owes him something. But the cool thing about this show is you learn real fast that the scariest villains don't always yell about their problems. Sometimes they just smile. Which brings us to Byakuran. And on some personal note type-ish real fast, back when I was younger, side note, also the side note, I have dyslexia. But whenever I read his name, my brain always auto-translated it to Byakuya. So I was always calling this man, oh, that's Byakuya from Bleach, but also in Reborn. That's such a common name. I guess it's a Japanese thing. I didn't know any better. I was just a dumb kid. Okay, yeah, random thing over. I just want to bring that out because I thought it was an interesting thing I used to do as a kid. Anyway, side tangent, side thing over now. Back to script. Okay, bye. This man was soft-spoken, polite, and always grinning. The cool thing about him was he'd ask you about your day while annihilating your timeline like he was clearing out his inbox full of junk mail. This man was scary. He's seen hundreds of timelines and universes where he wins, so he stopped caring about anything overall. In a way, if you keep winning like he did, he just became apathetic towards everything. He was like the personification of nihilism. But then he meets the 10th, and the 10th kind of scares him. To a point where when he sees Tsuna in the future, he starts slipping. Because you can say a lot about no good Tsuna, but you can't say that he isn't infectious when it comes to hope. He inspires people just by being himself, just by standing up when the odds are against him and everyone else wants to back down. He steps up because he wants to, not just because he has to. There's the difference there. The responsibility of a leader is heavy on his shoulders, but he doesn't buckle beneath the weight. He only grows stronger from it. And because of this, Byakuran doesn't know what to do with someone who won't accept the fate that he's seen. In a weird way, it's like him fighting his nature. He's so used to winning, it's become a part of nature to him. Second nature, you could even say. When Tsuna shows up and says, you know what? No. He won't let him win. And he is completely taken aback from this. That being said, his arc is really good. It's a pivotal arc that completely changes the dynamic of the show. Granted, this is the arc that jumped the shark for me. Don't get me wrong, I still like the show, but like I was like, wait a second, What happened to just mafia magic stuff? Now we're in the future and parallel timelines and multiverses. And don't get me wrong, the series taking this route long-term wise pays off. It's just like, I was not ready for a time travel thing. Granted, Lambo was hinting at time travel the entire time, so it shouldn't honestly have been that surprising, but it was. And I'm pretty sure that broke my ACLs when they made that kind of left turn and I was trying to go right. But still, it was still a fun arc overall. If I just kind of stop looking at the time travel methods they use to get to the future, because those are questionable within itself. But you know what? Regardless, I really like this arc. So yeah, that's the cool thing about Reborn villains. They're not just obstacles. They're kind of thesis statements. One tests his confidence, one tests his faith and his hope in humanity and the future, while others test his morality. They don't just challenge his strength, they challenge his character. Okay, so I've covered a lot of groundwork and built a solid foundation for this show. But I want to talk about what this story is really about. Because it's not just about mafia shootouts, cool jackets, and flaming weapons. It's about legacy. It's about trauma. It's about trying to build a future out of rubble you didn't create. Seemingly, every arc in Hitman Reborn is structured around one question. What do you do with power someone else left? Tsuna doesn't ask to be a mafia boss. He doesn't want control. He doesn't even like fighting that much. Because if you haven't noticed, this entire series is about one kid learning how to lead. Not through dominance, but empathy. He doesn't raise his powers by crushing others. He does it by pulling up people with him. And that's not just only inspirational, that's counterculture to most shonen at the time. Because this isn't a get strong and beat the next villain kind of series. This is more of a figure out who you are and don't become what hurts you series. The dying wolf flame, that's not a power-up. It's literal regret and resolve set on fire. And when it comes to Tsuna, he doesn't fight to prove himself. He fights to protect people from going through the same things he did. And that's what makes Reborn different. It's not about chasing greatness. It's about surviving responsibility without losing your humanity. And that applies to more than just Tsuna. Every character is dealing with what they inherited. Power, pleasure, pain. Some embrace it, some become monsters. Some run from it and some crumble. But then you get to people like Tsuna who take it all and try to make something better out of it. And that's the real heart of the story. Because Reborn isn't about becoming the strongest. It's about breaking the cycle, refusing to pass down that pain to the next generation. Choosing to build something kinder than the world that raised you. That's what Hitman Reborn is saying underneath all the explosions, the bullets, the box animals, and the mafia rainbow babies. This is so much more. When Tsuna stands up and says, I'm not gonna be the 10th, it's not cowardice. It's a declaration saying, I'm going to be something new, something better. And that's way harder than just taking the throne that was handed to you practically. I mean, don't get me wrong, he earned it, but you get what I'm saying. Because my friends, that's real growth. And it's such a shame that most fans didn't get to see this ending to this fun, weird, wacky, baby assassin-filled ride. Because it gets out there, it gets kind of crazy. If you thought the future arc was crazy, you ain't seen the baby war yet. So let's talk about what you didn't see. Because the best part of Reborn, I promise you, isn't even animated. So the anime cuts off at the future arc, which I've already said. Which is still wild to me, but you know what? It's whatever. Because everything after that is what turns Hitman Reborn from a solid shonen to a generational masterpiece. First, we get the inheritance ceremony arc, which introduced Shit P. That is her name. Shit P. She's so weird, but she's also so cool. So you know what? Y'all missed that. I'm sorry you didn't get that. But this arc isn't just about Tsuna leveling up again. It's about him still not wanting to be the 10th. He really genuinely doesn't want it, and people don't get that. He doesn't trust himself to lead. He doesn't even believe he's earned it at this point. So we get this whole story, not about him being a bad guy. It's about him confronting expectations. The family's expectations, Reborn's expectations, the world's expectations. And Tsuna just does not care for that. He's gonna do his own thing. You know, throw the Miles clip. Is that gonna get copyright? He gonna do his own thing. He might get copyright, I don't care. Because during this arc, he meets Simon, the leader of a rival mafia family, and they're not evil for once. They were actually betrayed. His family was erased by the Vongala family generations ago. And on paper, this is some high-grade beef, like some Wagyu level beef. And this should have been on site, but it wasn't. Simon and Tsuna were like the same person. And when they hear the circumstances that their family went through, they're right. They're the victims of the situation. In other words, they're survivors of violence Tsuna is being asked to inherit. When they find that out, this becomes no longer beat the enemy to win. It's how do you make peace with sins of a system you didn't create, but you're expected to carry. Like, come on, dog. That is such a cool setup for an arc. You can't tell me that's not cool. Not to mention, in this arc, we get the earth flames, dog. Ugh, it's like flame on flame violence, and that sounds redundant, but I don't care. It's cool. And if you think that setup is hard, brother, sister, anybody in between. Let's talk about that final arc now, because nothing says we're wrapping this up like a battle royale with baby assassins. Like, come on, dude. Like, what? The last arc of Hitman Reborn is called The Curse of the Rainbows, which sounds like a B horror movie, but like when I tell you this is some prime A S tier action storytelling, let me tell you, because this is the emotional core of the whole series, which was apparently secretly building up to, which you never knew, I never knew, but it was always building up to this. So you remember the babies I've been talking about this entire video? So they're actually called, I am not pronouncing this right. Oh man. That dyslexia debuff is kicking in real fast. Oof. Okay, so we're gonna just call them the Rainbow Babies because that's what it is in English. I do not speak Italian. But the superpowered babies with pacifiers and enough drip that most adult mafiosos get a little bit jealous when they walk into a room. Yeah, it turns out they've been cursed this entire time. And not like metaphorically, I mean like literally. Magic involved. So all the babies were once super powerful adults forced into these bodies to kind of protect the the Triniset, which is, for lack of better words, the ultimate power. And some stuff happens and they're finally given the opportunity to break the curse to become adults again. And this kicks off the representative battle of the rainbow. And you know what? That's a bit of a mouthful, especially for something that boils down to fight to break the baby's curse or stay a baby forever. And don't get me wrong, it's a cooler name than just baby fight, but hear me out. If they had a third option, what if they just called it extreme baby fight? Huh? Yeah? That's pretty good. I'd read extreme baby fight. That could be a part of the next big 3. You never know. I'm just saying.
Oh, brother, this guy stinks!
Don't let me write stuff, guys. That'd be horrible. Anyway, the mastermind behind all of this is Checkered Face, a mysterious weirdo who's been hovering in the shadows of the entire series. But then things get a bit complicated because God, I am never gonna pronounce this word right. The Rainbow Babies can't fight directly. So this is where the whole representative part comes into play. So each baby, not baby, selects a fighter. And you know, Tsuna agrees to fight for his baby, not baby, Reborn. But Reborn makes him work for it. He's not trying to play games this time. He's got to prove he's no longer no good Tsuna anymore. He's got to prove it to him, not with talk, not with feelings, with fist and with resolve. This arc becomes a final exam for Tsuna as a character. To show Reborn that he can lead, that he can protect, that he can fight for someone else without losing himself in the process. Meanwhile, we finally get introduced to a mysterious baby whose name I hate. I will try it, but I hate this man's name. We get introduced to Bermuda de Wittgenstein. Yes, that is his real name. No, I do not know if I said that right. And yes, there are a bunch of recordings of me messing that name up that you will never hear. But I promise you, they're all worse than what you just heard. So the thing about him is that he's a rogue baby, which is it's kind of crazy to say that. My guy looks like a goth mummy. I don't even know how that works, but the aesthetic kind of works for this weird rogue baby thing, man. And it's cool. He's the baby for the Vindice. I didn't really talk about the Vindice, but they're like mafia cops, if that even makes sense. But they're like magical mafia cops. Anyway, they hijacked the whole tournament. Why? Because their baby's been cursed longer than anybody else, and they are tired, and they want everyone else to suffer like them. So you kind of get where they're coming from. Once again, I like to say this, I understand the intention, it's just the execution's kind of poor. But thanks to their interference, this is no longer about just lifting the curse. It's about facing people who have been destroyed by the system, the same system they've been trying to fix. And Tsuna, he doesn't respond with more power. He responds with empathy. He reaches out. He protects people, even if they don't want to be saved, even if they were trying to kill him. And in the end, the curse is lifted. The Rainbow Babies are set free. They broke the cycle. At the end of all this, Tsuna doesn't take the title. He still turns it down. Even after proving he could lead the strongest warriors into a battle and win, even after showing Reborn he's not a failure anymore, he chooses peace. He chooses his peace. He chooses to be Tsuna and not the 10th. And that's how you end the story about legacy. Not with the throne, with a choice. And man, that is just like peak, man. That's so cool. He chose to do what he wanted with this legacy that he didn't ask for. If that's not the most character-driven choice you've ever heard of, I don't know what is. So good. And I get it, it may not be for everybody, and that's perfectly fine. But for me personally, I love that. That was so fun, and I love Reborn so much. So, since Reborn has been over for years, what has Amino been doing with herself? So that's the question, right? What happened to Akira Amino after Hitman Reborn? She didn't just disappear, she just kind of went sideways. Instead of chasing another long-running shonen hit, she pivoted kind of hard. to our next big project, Live, a sci-fi series that looks like Reborn if you dipped it in neon and gave it a space cop badge. Same character design, same goofy energy, but instead of mafia politics, it was space criminals and a telepathic jellyfish and a dog that lived in your chest. So it was weird, it was fun, nowhere near as long as Reborn, but that's not a bad thing. Live was definitely Amino stretching, doing something fresh after 8 years in the mafia trenches. But she also did something else during this time period, and that was Psycho-Pass. Technically, it is not her work. I, not knowing any better when I was younger, thinking like, yo, she went from Reborn to Psycho-Pass. Oh, this woman's pen cannot be touched. She's amazing. She might have just became my favorite Arthur of all time, but she just did the character designs, which is perfectly fine. Her character design is sick. Oh, I love her character design. But I was under the impression when I was younger that Psycho-Pass was all hers and not just her doing character design, and it was actually 3 other guys that wrote Psycho-Pass. Doesn't take away from Psycho-Pass. I love Psycho-Pass. Psycho-Pass is definitely getting a video one day. But right now, we're still talking about Reborn. But yeah, I had to bring it up because this is like something she did, and it's very prominent and impactful, and it's such a cool series. Oh, Psycho-Pass is so good, man. Oh, the character design in that series is so great. Okay, enough about all of her extra amazing work. Let's talk about everything else Reborn touched. Because this series didn't die, it just kind of went off the grid. Because even without a final season or even a movie deal, Reborn really has a long tail in Japan. Like, the kind of staying power you only get when your franchises refuse to let go. So first up, they have stage plays. Yeah, full-blown live-action stage plays with Goku Dera and the whole gang. It's super weird, and they're all singing, and they're all in costume. And you know what? Kind of cool from what I can see. I've never been to Japan, so obviously I haven't seen one live, but from the pictures I've seen online, not bad. You know what? I dare even say kind of cool. Now, would I recommend this to a casual fan? Absolutely not. You couldn't pay me to. But to a hardcore anime fan or someone who's hardcore into Reborn, if they didn't know about this, definitely put them on game. This is one of those niche things I feel like a lot of people in the West don't think about when it comes to the anime fandom. Because it's more than just cool anime and cool new seasons, there's also other aspects like the live actions that aren't like on Netflix or Hulu or something horrible. I mean live action like the plays. But there's also merch, baby. There is so much merch for Reborn. You have keychains, posters, stationaries, flaming box with animal plushies, jackets, rings, cosplay kits. At one point, you could probably walk into an anime store in Tokyo and come back out looking like Tsuna or Reborn with a full mug with Leon on it. Not to mention, even years later, sometimes new merch drops, which is like, yo, this thing has a pulse. Hey, Reborn, you still alive down there? Yeah, I'm good. You guys want a reboot yet? Has it been 25 years yet? No. Okay, well, when you hit 25 years, I'm gonna come back. Matt. So I'm sorry, that was dumb. But even without mainstream support, Hitman Reborn is one of those franchises that refuses to completely disappear. It lingers in theaters and shelves, on the internet and fandoms. People who've seen this series don't forget it because it's really good. And we want a reboot. We don't have to wait for 25 years. We already had the 20th anniversary. Like, come on, man. Just somebody. Ufotable, UFO table. Come on, bro. Demon Slayer is about to be done. Pick up Reborn. Do everybody a solid. Bring back Reborn. You guys do amazing work. Please. Okay, enough of all that. Let's talk about the video games, because Reborn, surprisingly, has a lot of video games, which are primarily just Smash Bros. Clones or fighters. But you know what? It doesn't matter because it's fun. Well, granted, pretty much every Reborn game is like Japan exclusive, which I never really got why, but you know what? Obviously, I'm not in the room when they make these calls. But you had cool games like Flame Rumble, a 2D fighter game where you could beat up people with flaming gloves. What's not to like about that? And then you had all of these PSP titles, because the PSP is the greatest handheld that we just ignored because it was too expensive. Or maybe that was just me and my friends. I don't know. Either way, PSP slept on. The games for Reborn on the PSP all look pretty cool. But then you have the real cream of the crop, in my opinion, because these are the ones I could have played, are the jump crossover games. Oh, jump crossover games used to be something worth celebrating, because you had games like Jump Superstars, Jump Ultimate Stars, J-Stars Victory Versus, and then you had the one we don't want to talk about because that was bad. It was really bad, ugly. I hate that game. I hate Jump Force so much. I'm glad Tsuna wasn't in that game. That game is so freaking ugly. I hate that game is the worst. I could go on a whole rant about that game. I'm not doing it. You know what? That was a blessing he wasn't in that game. Y'all are so lucky. I'm hiding the urge right now to go on a whole Jump Force tangent rant. but like I need to end this video. But oh, the Jump Force rant is building up. My meter is charged. Okay. So let's end this. So what do you call a story about a loser who becomes a leader, not because he wants to, but because he has to? You call it an honest one. You call it Hitman Reborn. From babies shooting bullets of dying will to mafia bloodlines, this series should have never worked. It breaks genre rules, it shifts tones midstream, it introduces time travel, boss baby before DreamWorks, talking animals, pineapple-haired illusionists with no warning, but then it just kinda clicks. Because beneath all the chaos is a story about growing up without losing yourself. It's about refusing to inherit someone else's violence. It's about being told who you're supposed to be and choosing to be better instead. Tsuna didn't win because he was the strongest. He won because he stayed kind, because he didn't let legacy define him, because he looked at a broken world and said, I'll take care of it, but I won't become it. And that's what leadership is, in my opinion. It's not bravado, it's not power, it's responsibility, compassion, and understanding boundaries. It's the quiet moments when you say no to a path laid out for you and the courage it takes to build a new one from scratch. So yeah, maybe Hitman Reborn didn't get the anime it deserved. Maybe it didn't become the household name it should have been. Maybe people just remember it as that anime with the baby in the suit. But if you stuck around, if you read the manga, if you watched the arcs, if you played the games, or if you just felt something real in Tsuna's story, then you know this wasn't just another shonen series. It was a love letter to every no-good kid who was told they couldn't lead, couldn't do something, couldn't be anything they wanted to be, and proved everyone wrong by simply not giving up. So the next time somebody laughs at you for saying, I like Hitman Reborn, tell them, hey, you ever read the ending? So, hey, I'm Remy. Thanks for letting me check out on Hitman Reborn. Like and subscribe and all the other fun stuff, and I will see y'all in the next one. Y'all take it easy. Later. Okay, man, this video, dog, has been something I've been working on for almost a month and a half now. This is pretty much the 4K sub special. I don't know if people do 4K sub specials, so I'm gonna do one. So thank you for liking and subscribing for 4K, dog. That's so crazy. Reborn is obviously one of the series I deeply care about. See the link of this video? I clearly care about Reborn. But yeah, this is just kind of like a love letter to it from me to the people who like Reborn out there. So you know what? I don't know. I'm ranting. Clearly I'm off script right now. Thanks for watching. Thanks for subscribing. Thanks for sharing. Thanks for just being here. I said it in a post, but dude, I'm so grateful. 4,000 people show up to watch me at some point. I'm not gonna say y'all watch every video. If you did, that'd be cool. Just saying. But the fact that anyone watches anything I make, post, talk about, it means so much to me. So thank you so much for 4K subs. And hopefully, I'll do the next big old video for 6, 10K or, whatever happens in the future happens. I'm not going to even say anything. Anyway, thanks for everything, guys. Later.